on this computer.
Perfect.
There we go.
And then,
And Noel, you're up.
That I am.
okay.
Beautiful.
So you're in control now?
You might have to, let's see.
I think we have to do something.
I don't know if I'm a co-host yet. You guys might have to give me that option. I'm sure Jim might be able to do that too.
Yeah, Cliff, you'll have to hover over her name and make her a host.
Hold on, how do we do this now?
Wait a minute.
Oh,
Okay, you should be okay.
Great.
You got it?
I do.
All right.
excellent, thank you.
Getting everyone in from the waiting room.
All righty.
Nice.
Excuse me. Oh,
All right, so. Aha, there's our scout.
oh, Jim Dixon, our scout.
Tyler. It's Tyler.
Tyler. Frank, Ann said you sent something about a heads up for the meeting, and I did not have an opportunity to. I have no clue where we're going with your.
Okay,
You can quiz me.
that's okay. So if I can hide my face here for a minute. So this date, 1983, 11-year-old young lady with her parents took a trip to Russia. And the event started about a year or so earlier when this young woman, Samantha Smith, was 10 years old and read in the newspaper that Yuri Andropov became the head of the Soviet Union. And she wrote a letter to Mr. Andropov, basically congratulating him and basically saying, I'm really worried about the nuclear arms race. And I'm really worried that Russia is going to blow up the United States and will blow up you. And can't you do anything to help that out? And the letter was immediately published in Pravda, which caused a lot of stir over the United States and stuff like that. And not being one to give up on things, Samantha contacted the Russian consulate in Washington, D.C. and said, how come Mr. Andropov hasn't got back to me? And so she got a letter that Yuri Andropov basically talked about the history and how they're peace-loving people and they have children too. And in fact, he invited her and her parents to go to Russia as his guest, which she did. She left on this date in 1983 when she was 11, toured for 2 weeks. And much to her credit, she didn't want to stay in the high-priced hotels. She actually stayed with a bunch of younger students her age in a couple of the schools that she visited across Russia. Yuri Andropov was sick, so she never met with him. She came back with her parents and became a celebrity and an activist for peace. At 11 years old, she was on the Dick Cavett show. She was on Johnny Carson. She was interviewed by all the big news stations and stuff like that. She ended up becoming an unofficial junior ambassador for the United States around the world and got a job with Disney, basically a world sort of a cameo appearance on a show that she did different things on the world. And unfortunately, a little bit of a sad story. In 1985, when she and her father were flying back from California on a Disney shoot, her plane crashed and she was killed.
Oh.
So very, very sad. On the other hand, immediately around the world, there was outpouring. The Russians put her on a stamp. They named a mountain after her. A Russian astronomer found an asteroid and named it after Samantha. Peace gardens have been put up all across the United States and the world in her name. So having lived considerably longer than Samantha, I don't think I've had that big an impact on the world. And probably tied to what Mr. Dixon may say later on, I think it's really impressive that a 10 and 11-year-old young lady can in fact change the world and impact global politics. So that's sort of a good feeling story. The picture I have is Samantha holding up her letter to Yuri Andropov. So
Wow.
see what
Oh,
happens.
that's a great story.
It was a great story, and it's amazing that she got through to Andropov, because wasn't he the head of the KBG for 10 or 12 years?
I mean, obviously there was an opportunity for good PR and propaganda with the Soviet Union, but in fact, it came to a very, I think, very positive end.
Wow.
So
Awesome.
Anyway,
Very
so that's
cool.
just
Very cool. Yep. Okay, well, we're almost there.
Do you want to welcome our scout?
So this evening we have a young man, Tyler Dixon, who's going to be watching the proceedings here, so he can kind of get a feel for what conservation commissions do, and how we regulate and how we administer environmental law. And down the road, I'm sure if he's interested, he can find that there are numerous fields where you can make a living in the environmental field. You can get involved in environmental law. You can get involved in environmental enforcement, professional wetland science, physical engineering. So there are many, many opportunities for a young person to study the sciences and move on, and hopefully get involved on the regulatory side rather than the development side.
Which is okay.
Easy now.
I'm teasing now, yes, please understand. Okay, so let's see. It's about time. We have 1, 2, 3, 4.
Who else is here? Brian?
Okay, we have
Frank?
quorum.
Lev. Okay.
Hopefully we'll get a couple more people to show up.
Mhm.
Do you have the advertising?
Mhm.
Okay,
Right
thank you. It being the evening of July 7th at 7 o'clock and a quorum being present, I'll call the meeting of the Bellingham Conservation Commission to order. Pursuant to Governor Baker's signing of Senate Bill 2475, an act related to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, the Bellingham Conservation Commission will meet utilizing the Zoom online option. Instructions and invitations are available at the town website, bellinghamma.org. Additionally, moving forward in this meeting, the chair instructs the meeting administrator to withhold access to speak at the meeting until or unless such persons requesting to speak are visible on screen, and respectfully request such access. We will proceed to the first hearing. Bellingham Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing in accordance with the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Bellingham Wetlands Protection Bylaw on the abbreviated notice of resource area delineation to confirm the delineation of bordering vegetated wetland, intermittent stream, and perennial stream with associated bank and bank to a pond on a 120-acre site located at Assessor's Map 95, Parcel 37, 180 Payne Street, Bellingham. Eric Diaz, Strong Point Engineering, Manley Street, West Bridgewater, has submitted the filing. Wait a minute, this is the wrong hearing.
No, I think that's right.
Oh yeah, okay, no, my mistake, okay. Nope. Strong Point Engineering, Manley Street, West Bridgewater, has submitted the filing on behalf of Ron Bonvy, Active Adult LLC, Southport Drive, Mashpee. The continuation will be held via the online Zoom option on Wednesday, July 7th at 7. Okay, so before we proceed, for the record, I'll state that at our previous meeting, the commission authorized the administrator and myself to participate in an an on-site evaluation that was attended by our professional wetland scientist peer reviewer, along with the engineering group and environmental science group for the applicant. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to ask Eric to hit the high points. And Matt, if you have anything to add, please participate, and as will we.
Sure. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. For the record, Eric Dias, registered professional engineer with Strong Point Engineering Solutions. Here tonight, as you said, representing Mr. Bonvy for then ECC Active Adult LLC. We had a site walk for this property not last Thursday, but the Thursday before, the 24th. And at that time, I'll keep it very brief and ask Brad Holmes, who's here with me tonight, who's our wetland scientist, to get into a little bit more detail, but a brief overview. I think we looked at some areas on the site. I think the existing flagging that was there, we pretty much all agreed was in pretty good shape, with the exception of maybe a marker or two here and there. And I think a lot of it was revolved around just completing a couple portions of the lines and buffer zones, and evaluating the status of a stream on site as being whether it's intermittent or perennial. We hung some additional wetland flags out there. As of yet, we haven't had an opportunity to get our survey crew back to the site to locate those flags, but we wanted to come tonight, give you folks an update, talk about just a couple of things, and then we fully anticipate before the next meeting having all those flags located, getting fully updated plans back to you folks, and hopefully being in a position where we can close this thing out. So with that, I know enough to know when to stop talking before I say something stupid. Brad, do you want to give any highlights of what in particular we looked at when we were on the site?
Thanks, Eric. Good evening, members of the commission. Brad Holmes with ECR. I think we had a great meeting. It was nice to walk the site with the commission and Matt Byrne. I did get notes and additional flag notation over to Eric that we'll be able to present to the commission on a revised site plan. And I did get the chance to kind of go through Matt's update letter to the commission, but until we have a revised plan in hand and some of the more detail that we talked about at the meeting, I haven't been able to put together a response yet. So at this point, as Eric said, we're still in process. We're looking to add those flags and do some more review on the stream, and then come back to the commission, get a submittal into the commission, a week or two ahead of the next meeting, and then hopefully bring this thing to a close. So I appreciate the opportunity to walk with the commission, and I think we had a great meeting. It was very productive, and I think we're all on the same page, adding some more detail to the plan and the delineation. So I think it was a good event.
Okay. What we normally do, because this was something that happened outside of a normal meeting, we like to just do a quick recap of the field conditions so that we can get this portion of it on the record. And I'm gonna rely on Matt's notes just to hit a couple of the high points. I know there was a section that had not been delineated. We did have a question about the stream stats being cut off right at the state line. We didn't know if that was by design, if that was some sort of a anomaly. And we understand that we'll be waiting for the revised plans, which is perfect, because then what we can do is we can all look at it, evaluate it, and make sure that we're on the same page. Matt, if you got anything you can provide for the record.
Good evening. Nice to be with you. Matt Byrne with BSC Group, here on behalf of the Conservation Commission. I agree with Brad's synopsis. We had a productive walk on the 24th. Went over some areas of question and sort of that incomplete portion in the center of the site. Is it okay to sort of reference the sheet pages, the sheet numbers?
Sure.
That seemed to be a reasonable way to approach the overall analysis of this project. It's a large site. So on sheets C8 and C9, there was a fairly significant gap that we visited in the field and talked through, and Brad added some flags that Eric was talking about picking up later.
Okay, just a sec, Matt.
Yeah.
Brad, do you have, or Eric, do you have those sheets that you could share with us?
I do. In fact, I didn't want to cut Matt off, but I can share my screen and kind of walk through it as Matt's narrating.
Oh,
I'll
great.
cut him off. Yeah, if you got the plans, please provide.
I do. I'm trying to share. It says host disabled participant screen sharing. So I need permission.
Yeah, one sec, we'll figure that out. Let's see, you will. Is there an option on your end, Cliff?
Is it me?
I cannot give that permission at this moment as the co-host.
All right.
Let's see, actually,
Yeah, Cliff, if you want to hover over Eric's name under the participants, you should be able to give him screen share or co-host abilities so he can share.
Is that him? Eric?
You should be good.
I got it.
Oh, excellent.
Let me see what we can do here. And can everybody see that?
We see the dogs.
The dogs.
The dog should be going.
there it goes.
Get the
Good.
plan? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So Matt, you narrate and I'll point wherever you need me to go.
Great. Let's go to C5 if you don't mind.
Not a problem.
We started here. There's a sort of extensive stream system, intermittent stream system that we looked at. Yeah, and so we added some detail to the portion. I'm not, I don't have the right glasses, but I think it was in the middle of this stream system, a little bit farther north. Yeah, right about there. We added some flags to show where the stream system sort of broadens out in a relatively flat area. We added a little bit of detail to the culverted section, down toward the ponds. And so we all sort of got onto the same page about the extent of the resources there. The pond itself at the bottom of that sheet, and onto the next sheet, C6, we were looking at and noticed that the wetland is delineated based on the managed golf, the mown lawn area for the golf course. And one of my comments is that when the time comes to actually, doing something here, we should do a more robust marking of the actual delineation. But I think that we were all fairly comfortable with where the line is for that. Let's see, over on at the north west corner of C10, if you don't mind, Eric.
Yep.
We found an unmarked wetland, very small IVW. Yeah, right at the T there, at the bottom of the T, there's a culvert that goes under the golf path. And there's a little bit of IVW sitting there that's going to get picked up. Let's see, if we go up onto C9, this is the area where I think it's this at the bottom. It's a 700 wetland series, and I've forgotten now the numbering at the top. I think yeah. Then it just stops at WF 700. Brad added some flags going northward and connecting ultimately to the, I think it's flag 1, if I remember correctly.
It is. It's 1-3 right here.
1-3. Yeah, so that will get picked up and connected so that western edge of that whole wetland system will be picked up. And then probably the most complicated section is on C11, if you don't mind.
Yep, 2 seconds. Yep.
Yeah. So Bungay Brook is at the very sort of top. You've got bank flags right at the top there. And what we see, if you notice this funny little hook in the wetland delineation, in the green wetland delineation. See, I'm pointing at my screen. Yeah, thanks.
That's doing a pretty good
Yeah,
job.
It works really well for me. Right there, that's an upland sort of isthmus, I think it was be the right word. And that goes to a small beaver impoundment that's on the ponded area that is part of Bungay Brook. And just to the east of that tip, that wetland point, yeah, the upland tip, there's the Bungay Brook continues on eastward. And then the stream, the intermittent stream that comes through the center of the golf course and empties into this segment at the bottom of the sheet, is well channelized, and we picked up some additional bank flagging, but there's question about how where the mean annual high water of Bungay Brook connects or extends into that system. Yeah, down here. The storms have arrived. So in this kind of 2-finger little segment, yeah, at the lower one, there's a culverted stream, and the stream that comes off of the golf course empties into here. There's a well-defined channel, and where that merges with and becomes part of Bungay Brook is probably the most challenging bit to figure out. And Brad was going to put some effort into sort of figuring out where the mean high water would bring us up that channel. And that will, the real sort of implication there is some riverfront area that would go onto the site in association with any perennial section of stream. But otherwise, we, as we pointed out in the comment letter, the delineations are real solid. We're real happy with the work that was done on that. And so with just those sort of remaining questions to sort out, we should be in pretty good shape.
So Brad, how many flags would you estimate were there on the site?
How many flags did we add?
Yeah.
You know,
No, I mean, in total, just
a couple hundred maybe, if I had to throw a number out.
gotta be at least 300.
Yeah.
In looking at the topography of the site, with the massive loss in elevation from south to north, 200, 250 flags, the commission was very pleased with the accuracy of your flagging. So that these are the types of issues with a site like this that we would expect to see. And I'm glad that you guys are going to be working on a revised plan to capture all of the areas that Matt has noticed that we found in the field.
Excellent.
Thank you. I think it puts a really good product together, working together with the commission. So I'm happy to do it.
It's going to be necessary for your future planning.
Sure.
So one other thing that moving forward, and Brad's probably already aware of this, maybe Eric as well. I think that you cross the thresholds, you'll have to be filing with the MEPA unit. You'll have to file the environmental notification form. I believe you cross that threshold.
I've taken a quick look at the MEPA thresholds. I don't believe we've crossed one yet, but I know we're kind of teetering on the edge on a couple of these things. That's something we'll have to take a real close look at.
Please do, because I know that they don't recognize project segmentation, and this is probably the very first phase. So subsequent phases may put you across that threshold.
That's exactly right, and that's exactly one of the things that we need to take a very close look at.
Fair enough. And so Matt, I'm highlighting that for you to take a look at. And then when you respond, you'll take a look at that stream stat and give us a written response to that, I think, Brad.
Yes, correct.
Beautiful.
Especially once we have the flags on the site plan, and Eric and I have already talked about doing some additional review, whether it be watershed mapping on our own or doing a more in-depth stream stats review.
I think one of the limitations with stream stats is spanning that state line. So that's part of what gives us a little bit of a challenge on this one, but I'm sure we can put our heads together and come up with it.
Isn't it amazing? Because it's the USGS. You would think that, political boundaries would have no bearing on the science, but
You wouldn't think so.
yeah, well, it is Rhode Island. Okay, so thank you for investigating that.
Absolutely.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments? I see that the applicant is present. Mr. Bonvy, any questions you wish to ask of the commission or representatives?
No, I'm totally fine. I believe the process is tracking well and it's going great as far as I can see, and it's continue to go down the road, as they say.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Commission members, any comments? We have a number of people visiting tonight. Anyone have any questions? Want to know what the status of where we are, what the next steps are? Okay.
Yeah, if you want to say what the next step is, that wouldn't be a bad idea, I think, at this point, since things are moving.
Okay, well, what we're going to do is we're going to wait for Eric and Brad to present their revised plans. Matt will take a look at them and make sure they're consistent with our field evaluations. I do not anticipate much of a problem there. And then once everyone concurs that the plans reflect field conditions, I think we'll be in a position to issue the ORAD. I think one of the only things that I would add is that we'll probably add some language relative to the fact that in certain circumstances, we have only evaluated and clarified boundaries on one side of a resource area. So, subsequent work will require the identification of the opposite side. And also there's an area to the south, actually it's to the southwest, that is not identified. The preliminary plan showed that it might be subject to future development. Right now, nothing's proposed. We'll probably put something in the ORAD relative to the fact that before anything's done, that has to be verified. That's where we are.
I think that makes sense, and that all sounds fair to me.
Okay. So, we're looking ahead at our schedule, and as usual, things are pretty well jammed up. Would you be amenable to continuing to the first meeting in September? That would give you guys a little extra time to develop the plans, our peer reviewer and the commission a chance to evaluate them, and then hopefully be ready to wrap it up then. I'm thinking like the 8th of September.
I don't necessarily take issue with that. I'm going to kick it to the applicant real quick and ask Mr. Bonvy if he's amenable to that timeline.
Okay.
Well, I think if that's the best we can do, it's the best we can do. But I can only say that The sooner the better would be appreciated, and that was one of the reasons why, we went with the peer review, because we felt that would speed up the process. But if you believe that's the best you can do, then so be it. I happen to be on boards myself, and I understand we all give our time. And again, if that's the best you can do, that's the best you can do.
Well, I certainly appreciate that. You're accommodating our busy schedule. We're evaluating
How about kicking it back to the
August, the second meeting in August, maybe?
25th, August? August 25th for it?
August 25th, would that be a little better?
That'd be great. Thank you.
Making notes so I don't forget.
I'm doing the same thing right now.
All right. That being the case, thank you for your forbearance. I'll entertain a motion to continue the hearing to the evening of August 25th at 7.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second.
We're gonna have to do a roll call.
I think pursuant to the governor's instructions, we'll do a roll call. So we have a motion and a second. Noel? Is that a yes?
How do you vote?
Yes, for me.
Yeah, okay. Brian? Brian, you said okay.
Nod.
Michael?
Yes.
Neil?
Yes.
Okay.
Ariane, sorry.
Yes.
Okay,
And
that's by unanimous vote.
All right, great. Well, thank you all for your time. We appreciate it, and we'll get something back to you as soon as we can.
Thank you so much.
thank you, Aaron.
Have a
Thank
great
you.
night.
Have a good night.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Brad.
Okay, we're 5 minutes ahead of schedule. I'm going to open up our next continuation. The Bellingham Conservation Commission will hold continuations of public hearing in accordance with the Mass Wetlands Protection Act, General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, on the notice of intent for the proposal to construct a new access roadway, improvements to existing roadways, stormwater management facilities, utility improvements, including a pump station located within a 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands, including proposed alteration of 150 square feet of BVW located at Assessor's Map 45, Parcel 56, North Main Street, Mill Street, and Common Street, Bellingham. Mark Allen, Allen Engineering Associates, Oakdale, Mass. has submitted the filing on behalf of Dennis Rain, Bellingham Town Administrator, 10 Mechanic Street, Bellingham. Continuation will be held on the evening of July 7th at 7:30. Okay. Let's see, Mike is here. Are we at Mark or Mike or who?
We're both here.
Oh,
Yep.
okay. So I guess there was a minor snafu relative to the dissemination of information.
That is true.
So, and we understand there are a lot of things going on for everyone. But I'm just going to ask, the commission's going to ask you a question, Mike. Based on our notes from the previous meeting here, you can just answer in the affirmative if these issues have been addressed. We talked about some detail sheets on the on the walls. One of the walls is holding back the hill and the other wall is supporting the road. We had requested details. Is that going to be addressed in your comments?
Actually,
Yes.
that's not something that's in the comments, but when this first came up, we indicated that we had included sort of typical retaining wall details. What we can do is to work with the client and determine what wall construction and material they think is appropriate for that particular location, whether it be, concrete modular unit or reinforced concrete, et cetera.
Okay, that makes
I
a
thought
lot of
we had
sense.
talked- I'm sorry, go ahead.
No,
I
that
was
makes
just
a lot
gonna
of
say,
sense because, oh, good. No.
I thought we had talked that through. You had mentioned weep holes at one point, and we had mentioned that the walls are all subject to building permits, so structural designs will have to be submitted. We can give you more schematics, but unless I misunderstood, Mr. Chairman, I thought that's sort of how we talked that through, where that would all be subject to review by the building department.
It is, and I know that not so much in this one, because, even though we're looking at areas of 10 to 12 feet, when we get to the next project, we're looking at areas that are up to 16 feet. That's a little more complicated. I don't know what the commission, I'd like a consensus from the commission. Do you feel that based on the fact that it's a 10-foot or 12-foot wall, is this something that you'd be willing to condition to take a look at those drawings prior to construction? Or do you feel like in this one you need more information? I know we've had some difficult situations with walls that were built, not only at the Lakeview Estates parcel, but a larger wall that failed at a commercial development. So we're really sensitive to retaining walls, especially if they're going to be on town roads, and it'll be the town's responsibility. What's the commission's pleasure on that? I think I'd like to give Mr. Dryden some clear guidance here. Frank, do you have anything to add?
And I'll just throw this out. I have seen in other locations that an applicant is required to provide to the commission essentially prior to construction, a design stamped by a registered structural engineer plan that would be subject to final approval by the building department, but I've seen that as a condition. So I'll just throw that out there.
Okay. Mr. Vice Chairman, any comments on that?
Yeah, I mean, I agree that I don't think we're in a position to evaluate wall construction. I know I'm not. So I'd be comfortable with, a properly designed and stamped plan being vetted by the building department before they issue a permit for it.
No, I'll second that too, or third that, whatever. I think that based on our town's experience with that project over near Hartford Ave, which we won't mention specifically, but we want to protect our interest in having a engineered stamped set of approved plans that the building department reviews and signs off on, I think is sufficient. I don't think we need to try to design something we wouldn't want to.
Okay. I think that's a consensus. So there were only several other items, and they were minor items. I think one was that the catch basin or drop inlet be included on the O&M plan. If you address that in your comments, that'll be good. I think Frank had mentioned that a very minor change in Basin 10 would get us to the 1-foot freeboard. And I think Basin 11, there was another minor change there. So if you guys are addressing those in your comments, I think that's all we have.
We are, and one thing that I think is noteworthy, Mr. Chairman, during our site walk, we spent quite a bit of time evaluating the configuration of basin IB4, and we were able to completely redesign that basin. As the plans stand right now, I'm happy to report that With the exception of crossing number 1, which utilizes the existing historic crossing, we have not 1 square foot of impact within the 100-foot riverfront area.
Okay, now, Mike, I can appreciate that. That's the second hearing. I know that with the planning
Oh, I'm
board,
sorry. Yeah.
they're combined, but we're keeping them separate. So, and I am very, very pleased to hear that.
I'll say it again during the next one.
Yeah,
Mike's just he's in a hurry to give us good news, that's all.
so this is good. It appears that our remaining concerns are going to be addressed or can be conditioned. And keeping with the applicant's desire to keep these projects dovetailed because of what's going on with the planning board, I'm going to suggest, and this is kind of putting the cart before the horse, because I know that there's some information that we're going to be waiting for Red Mill, but I'm looking at the evening of August 8th. And we can do the same thing. We'll open this one up. It'll give Frank an opportunity to look at the last items. It should not be a time-consuming process. And then we can get right into the continuation for Red Mill. So if we go to August 8th.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
There's August 11th.
August 8th of what year?
August 11th, I'm sorry.
August
11th at 8, okay? I picked up the wrong number. I don't think you would want to meet August 8th at 11.
No.
No. So it'll be
AM maybe.
August 11th at 8. I'll entertain a motion to continue the hearing to August 11th at 8.
So moved.
I second.
Ariane, did you recuse yourself from the hearing?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, all right. Want to make sure.
I was gonna, when we took a vote, I was gonna say I recused.
Okay.
I realized.
That's just in time. So again, according to the governor's suggestions, Noel,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Neil, you can nod.
Yes.
Brian,
Like, where's that damn button?
I can't help.
Yes.
Okay. So that's a unanimous vote. Thank you very much. Okay.
I also recused myself from the next meeting, Mechanic Street and Mill Street.
Head of the curve.
Yep.
Are we meeting on the 21st, Mr. Chairman?
I'm sorry, I missed that.
The 21st of July?
No.
The 28th.
We're actually going to go on vacation.
The 28th would be our regularly scheduled.
28th. So
Regularly
this is-
rescheduled meeting?
This is a special meeting. Normally, we would meet on the 21st.
Right.
Held this meeting tonight.
Actually, it'd be the 14th. Normally, we would
It'd be
meet
the
on the
14th.
14th.
Right.
Tonight, and so we just pushed it ahead 1 week.
Okay. Thank you.
So Neil, where are you going on vacation with them? Because it sounds like you were invited.
Maine.
Okay. Because all of these alterations to resource areas have been reduced, I'm going to use my discretionary authority to dispense with the reading of all of the alterations. Therefore, the Bellingham Conservation Commission will hold continuations of public hearings in accordance with the Mass Wetlands Protection Act, General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Bellingham Wetlands Protection Bylaw on the notice of intent for the proposal to construct roadways, associated utilities, and stormwater management system for the residential subdivision entitled Red Mill on the Charles, consisting of 109 single-family dwellings, 54 townhouse units, with alterations to regulated resource areas. The proposed project is located at Assessor's Map 51, parcel 13, 1 Mechanic Street and Mill Street, Bellingham. Mark Allen, Allen Engineering, Hopedale, Mass. has submitted the filing on behalf of Kevin Lobusur, Hopedale, Mass. The continuations will be held via the online Zoom option on Wednesday, July 7th at 7:40. Okay. Okay. For the record, the commission, along with Michael Dryden, representative of the applicant, and their professional wetland scientist, along with our peer reviewer, conducted a lengthy site inspection, especially concentrating on 6 areas. Now, I think I heard Michael talking about the very first area, which is an area of concern to us because we were looking to remove a structure from the inner riparian zone. And again, we haven't reviewed the details, but if you could just give us a heads up, because we're putting it on the record, the fact that we did inspect the site and came to a consensus out in the field.
Again, sorry for jumping the gun. These comments are all sort of packaged in one letter. So as you mentioned, we did look at that area extensively, and I think the consensus was that it just made perfect sense to take the portion of Basin 4 that was inside of the 100-foot riparian area and move it outside. We looked at the area that that basin would occupy between the 100 and 200, and much of it was highly disturbed anyway. So I just think it makes perfect sense. Now I'm going to take the opportunity to say again what I said earlier. We have, with the exception of crossing 1, which utilizes that existing historic crossing, there's no impact whatsoever within the 100-foot riparian area. So I think we've come a long, long way.
That's the purpose of the review and cooperation. And we're really pleased to hear that. We were, I will say that we were very encouraged as a result of the site inspection. And I think all of us were quite surprised by the aggressive growth of the vegetation out there, because we had gone out there and done the ANRAD review just a couple of years ago. And compared to what we saw 2 years ago, it's a veritable jungle.
Agreed.
So in the other 6 areas, I'm imagining that you're addressing in your peer review comments, these are the areas where we're tweaking, restoration and enhancement and all of that. That's all going to be
correct. You had asked, the commission had asked us to, if you may recall, that first mitigation area A that we looked at, as you just mentioned, was grown in. So the consensus was to leave it alone. We did include the cart path that we all walked down to get there as part of the mitigation, but we also, Jeff and I scoured the site to look for additional opportunities as the commission had requested. And we did find a few others, and I did want to just bring up one. The vernal pool on the east side of the site that was absolutely destroyed by ATVs. We propose to restore that. Include that.
Mike, don't mean to interrupt, but do you have a plan that you could show us that on? I know that this is new information and we don't usually, but we're going to extend the courtesy to allow you to do that because it's very important.
Yep, I can show you the area on the resource area plans, the colored plans. Let's see if I can share my screen here. I don't have that ability yet.
It's coming.
And maybe for the benefit of people that don't know what we're talking about, that there is a vernal pool on the site that was absolutely destroyed by ATV usage. Just absolutely ruined. It was horrible.
It was disheartening.
That's this vernal pool here. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Yep.
Recall that we walked down this cart path, which is also included as part of the mitigation. But we chose to restore this area because one, it obviously needs to be done. And quite frankly, we agreed to scour the site to find every square foot of improvement that we could make. So we included the actual delineation and an offset of 15 feet from that vernal pool. And then finally, just a little path that where the ATVs came in to access that. And we, in our comment responses, we included, Jeff and I came up with a narrative and methodology to restore that area by hand. Of course, we don't want to bring in heavy equipment, but we want to reestablish the leaf litter, twig litter in the bottom of that vernal pool, and try to get it back to the condition it was in, and also restore the access to it and hopefully prevent any further damage to the vernal pool.
I think that's the key. I think that's a worthy goal. Now, just so that the commission remembers, this is the area that was pretty much at the toe of the slope of the Lincoln Properties warehouse.
Yeah.
So everybody remember where that was? It's pretty discouraging stuff. Mike, I'll look forward to looking at your and Jeff's proposal there. And I'm sure that Matt will also take a peek at that as well.
Right. And just one thing I forgot to mention as part of moving Basin IB4, you may recall in the field, it was an opportunity for us to also increase the riverfront enrichment area. Let me go to that sheet.
Sure.
Actually, that's on R2. You go to R2. I don't know why I cannot call up R2. Can everyone see this on my screen?
We see.
Yes, we
a plan.
see a plan, and we see the first crossing.
I'm not sure why I can't call up all my plans. They're all right here.
Did you close this one down?
It is.
I see R2 open in 2 areas.
Here we go. Sorry about that.
No problem.
So Basin IB4 is now here, and this is the 100-foot riverfront area right at its edge. That allowed this blue area, which is enrichment area A, to be expanded by quite a bit, actually. And fortunate that we all got to stand and look at that area, because I think we all agree that that area is prime for enrichment and restoration. So that was sort of a byproduct, if you will, of moving the basin.
I think that everyone will agree. This is the importance of in the field evaluation. This is where the nuts and bolts of project review and development can really occur during the permitting process. And I'd like to just make one little note. Mike had just recently gone through hip replacement surgery. Is that true?
Yes.
And you were out there climbing up and down those 18, 20-foot slopes, up and down. That's very impressive.
Oh, thank you. That's the quickest way to get back on your feet. Baptism by fire, I guess.
Great physical therapy. Okay, Matt, I know that we're gonna be requesting you to take a peek at their in-depth proposals, and we'll look forward to seeing your comments as well. But I think you'll probably agree that we're moving in the right direction here.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, wholeheartedly agree.
Mr. Chair, quick question.
Sure.
So when we climbed down the ravine, looking at the crossing that was going to go across, coming down the slope, and we got to the bottom and crossed over, we looked at an area that was going to be a detention or infiltration basin, I think. And there were some large trees, and we discussed shifting, looking left and right and so forth. How did that turn out? I know you're going to do some more examination.
I don't think that was an infiltration basin. I think that was going to be one of the enhancement areas.
That was actually, if I could, I think he's referring to the replication where we were standing and looking at
Right.
trees.
Yeah.
And I think we spent some considerable time discussing.
Oh, right, yes.
And I think we all agreed that the location that we currently show is ideal because, one, it's connected to the work. We don't have to disturb forests to get to the mitigation area. And then we all sort of realized in the field that some of those big maples that we saw in oaks were actually to the west of the replication area. So I'm not saying that we're not going to have to remove any trees at all, but I think we all landed in the same mindset.
Okay. Thank you.
Are you going to be doing any more detailed plans in that area, Mike?
If the commission thinks we should, we have the replication area outlined. We have a planting plan for it. We have very detailed notes that talk about how it needs to be hydraulically connected. So it's basically the same level of detail that we typically submit to this commission for replication.
What I was thinking was I was getting to Mike's, he didn't come out and ask for it, but the possibility of maybe locating a couple of those large trees to assure that we would be able to avoid, but I mean, I don't know. Mike, do you feel that's necessary?
When you say locate, what do you mean? Just mark them so that they
Yeah,
aren't?
mark them on the plan of, so that we could say, okay, during construction of the replication area, all special attention be prepared to.
Well, certainly on site, if for the development of that area, so that the contractor who's creating the replication area realizes the importance of keeping them. But on the plans, if that makes sense too, to reflect them that way, whatever, marking them on site with flags or whatever. I'm not sure what the protocol is normal.
Well, it depends. It varies on site to site or job to job. We can easily put it in the special conditions that that Jeff or Mike go out and mark those trees so that, and it's going to be taking place under direction of a PWS. And what we always like to see, Mike, just so you understand, is that the person who designs the protocol, it's always helpful to have that person be the person that oversees, the actual work, the grade.
Sure, I don't disagree.
Okay.
Yep. So just one, if I could just add one additional note, as we discussed in the field, I think fortunately the really mature trees are outside of the replication area, but if we do have a sizable tree that's in the replication area, typically the only way to save that tree is to respect the drip line. And so that would be a significant portion. If you're suggesting that we sort of let that replication area morph into a different shape under the direction of the PWS, that's something we could consider, but it's sort of a trade-off. It's challenging, as you know.
Yeah, we usually have the ability to make field calls. However, the most important issue when dealing with wetlands restoration or replication, hydrology. So in order to get a successful replication, I guess you have to break some eggs to make an omelet. If we don't get the hydrology, the wetland replication area will fail.
Right.
Yeah, anything to add, or do you disagree?
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, Mike. I think once we got the plan oriented correctly and realized where we were, that the larger trees that we were initially so concerned about were not in that area. And that while there are some other trees in the replication area, none were as large or well established as the couple that we first thought we were going to have to be sacrificed. So I think we're in pretty good shape.
It might be a worthwhile effort to go out and mark the location of the replication area and just do a quick inventory of any tree over 12-inch diameter or whatever threshold you want to consider. But just to know what is actually in the field in the location of the proposed replication area.
So prior to construction, what we usually do is, what we always do is we have the areas field staked, and then the commission or its representatives will go out and evaluate the area. That would be the ideal time to take a peek at what was existing there.
It is marked in the field now, as you know, but we can make sure that it's permanently marked.
I think based on the effort it took us to get to it, I don't think you're going to be doing that first. So I would anticipate that as you get ready to perform, that necessary construction, it'll be a little easier for us to get out there and, because you're gonna need equipment and the whole 9 yards.
And I just would like to add something. This is the reason why we do have a PWS overseeing the replication area, because we do know that site conditions can impose certain issues at times, and that's why the PWS is out there to be able to make a good solid determination as to what will be the best results for a productive and successful replication area. So I just feel like, you know, we're putting it in the hands of the PWS. We're doing the best we can to try to make sure that the replication is successful, but ultimately it will be in his or her hands.
Okay, so while we're at that area, I think one of the things that we talked about in the field and that I'd like to get on the record is that crossing. We're looking at about a 16-foot fill on the second crossing, Mike. Yeah, that's the one.
Yep.
And all we have on the plans right now are heavily, is a heavy line. We're going to be issuing a permit based on alterations to resource areas, and a 16-foot fill is a little different than a 10-foot fill. I know that Don DiMartino has highlighted his concerns over that crossing area in a couple of previous letters. I think I'm wondering if it might be possible to just have a letter from a structural engineer outlining what he potentially could be looking at to get a preliminary opinion from inspectional services in the DPW. From our perspective, what we don't want to see is, okay, we issue a permit for X alteration, and you know, during construction, structural engineer says, well, no, we can't do it that way. It has to be done a different way. Now there are more alterations. I think that it's just one of these crossing the T's and dotting the I situations. We know that the crossing is necessary. We concur that it's necessary. I think, does the commission have any opinion on that?
I think. I concur.
Yeah, I'd kind of want to leave that in the hands of more of Don and a structural engineer and the building inspector to sort those out.
Yeah, I know. Even at lot 81 at Lakeview Estates, you know, in advance of issuing the permit, we got an opinion from Versalock and their design engineer talking about the viability and, you know, constructability of it. Maybe something like that. This is a lot bigger project. It's a much bigger deal, higher wall. It's a roadway. We have a culvert crossing.
Is this proposed to be a town accepted way at some point?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, I'm sure that everybody wants to do everything they can to make sure that this is viable long-term for the town's best interest.
You know, if we can get, you know, even a concept where an engineer says, okay, based on the constraints of the site, this is what we're looking for, then we can pass that on to inspectional services or to Don. I know, like I said, he's highlighted it in a couple of his comment letters. I don't think it'll be too onerous a thing. Frank, are you still around?
I
Mr.
am, and
Chair.
I'm still awake. I think I would agree with that. I don't think you want to have a design detail, but sort of maybe a feasibility letter, that this is the kind of stuff we might be able to use. You can't use Versalock, or you can use reinforced, I don't know, concrete or something like that as options.
Yep.
And that would stay within the footprint that's shown on the plan, or that could be constructed in the footprint that's shown on the plan. Might be handy. I would say you could always uncover something later on that there's quicksand there or something like that. That again, but I think you want to have a little bit of flexibility that there may be some unforeseen condition that you might have to modify something on.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, Jim Cupfer, town planner. One suggestion, maybe, in your order of conditions, certainly they come back once they have that stamped wall design. Just simply because I think we know from the last go around, whenever we have conceptuals or all these projects, whenever we have conceptuals, they change drastically, as Frank had mentioned. And it'd be great to have a stamped plan for you guys to actually review at a public meeting, perhaps.
Well, you see, if we make it a special condition, we can't review it at a public meeting because the hearing will be closed.
You couldn't do it in a public hearing, but you could certainly do it in a public meeting.
Well, but then we really would have, what would we have for, authority to state that that wasn't a viable alternative? I mean, I think
if I could, Mr. Chairman, I think it all comes down to the limit of work, right? So what we try to do as civils, we're not structural engineers, is we try to establish the limit of work and create a batter on the wall as a worst case scenario. So I think one of the potential issues with a sort of a feasibility letter is that a structural engineer may be hesitant to do that until he has all the parameters, that is soil borings and all, information about soils that, again, all the parameters they need to do a full design. So we can seek something of a feasibility letter. I just hope that it satisfies you, because it won't be a fully designed structural wall.
No, we're not asking for a preliminary design. What we're looking for here is possible alternatives and something that we could show Don and say, well, these are a couple of the alternatives. Is there one here that's better? Is there one? And we understand that during construction there may be some variations, but I don't know.
Mr. Chair, quick question. So Jim, if you could confirm or not, the town and the planning board / DPW are really going to be reviewing the road and the parameters, the structural, and making sure the road that they're going to eventually accept is a viable, properly designed, going to hold together road, whether it's a crossings or throughout the site, correct?
So whenever, a typical developer is constructing a retaining wall for a road, yes, it would be vetted through DPW. Depending on the height, it would be vetted through the building department. Things like Versalock, for instance, wouldn't be something the town would accept along the roadway, because we know of the concerns from other developments and salt getting behind those types of materials. So yes, I mean the ultimate clout that the town has is simply if the wall doesn't meet our standards, the town just doesn't have to accept the road. It just goes to town meeting. There would be recommendations from the planning board, DPW director, and others that said that it doesn't meet our standards, we wouldn't accept the road.
Are you talking about after the fact, Jim, that it wouldn't be accepted and become a town road, but it's already built, or it wouldn't be permitted to be built?
Well, the goal here is throughout construction, we would be having ongoing conversations. So when the design of the building or the design of the wall is being completed, we would state that, this needs to meet certain specifications and such as like my recommendation that come before the Conservation Commission, you have very unique parameters that you could provide guidance to the applicant, same as the planning board. Same as DPW, all this guidance would be provided to them so that at the end of the day, they build a wall that, that we can provide a recommendation for. Now, some other developers may do it backwards, and that's unfortunate, but I think for most developers, that is the typical process.
And I'm fine with us permitting the location of a wall in that way and letting the planning and building and DPW, who are more, they're more qualified to speak to the, with their peer reviewers, hopefully to you know, they're better equipped to judge the structure of the wall.
Right, but my question is, the Concom is, and believe empowered in this case, focused on making sure that the location of the crossing and any associated bridging and so forth is necessary. Number one, can't be done some other way. Alternatives and so forth are examined, which I think they are being. Number two, it's done in a minimally invasive and an impactful way by both design and location, which I believe is also being reviewed to make sure that's the case. And then the third would be that it's built in such a way that we don't have a failure causing a potentially, from an environmental and wetlands point of view, not necessarily people point of view, catastrophic failure where it causes a breakdown or a partial road failure or something, causing a mess into the wetlands and resource areas that we're trying to protect. So if those three areas are met and being looked at by the town and DPW and engineers, then I think we're doing our due diligence on that part and requiring as much as we can.
Frank?
I guess I'm going to sort of go back a little bit, and I'm more in agreement that the commission can specify the exact limits. That unless something, if something changes, they have to come back to you and talk about if it's now, instead of 40 feet wide, it's 42 feet wide or something like that. And that you render unto other groups the specific structural design evaluation, particularly if this is going to eventually be a public roadway that the town has to maintain in the future.
I mean, this is a little bit different situation than like lot 81, where we did bring in the building department to the building inspector to weigh in on that. But there was no town road involved in that. That was simply one lot, and the failure would have mainly impacted that dwelling and the open space. So I think this one's a little different, and I really do think that we need to rely on the other boards and town departments to use their expertise to design, to, you know, make sure that what's designed is going to be viable.
All I'm trying to do is suggest that we get alternatives in advance so that they can get a heads up prior to someone submitted something and then not knowing that there might be other alternatives, that's all. But hey, I defer to.
Mr. Chair, just a quick, are you saying alternatives in locations so forth, or just in materials and building?
No, just types of material. So, I mean, if it's determined that there's, that a Versalock wall, for instance, is not going to be acceptable because of the, and again, not being a structural engineer, we've seen failures before. So what does that limit the possibilities to? What are we looking at? I mean, because I know we mentioned before poured concrete. Are there other alternatives that we're not even aware of for, you know, these types of structures? I know that you can build boulder walls because Fafford does it all the time, but with, I don't want a 25-foot road being supported by a 60-foot base.
But again, isn't it more our to define the limits of the work that can take place and not necessarily the material that they use to construct it with?
Well, you know, we look at construction methodology for detention basins.
Right, but that's our purview because they're building, yeah, but
roadway crossings are also our purview. But hey, what, you know, if there's a consensus here that says this is what we want to do, then that's what we'll do. We'll issue a permit based on that kind of language. Everyone reviews the document anyway.
And we can certainly permit it that, you know, that they have to have a plan that's been approved by everybody else and, you know, submitted properly. But, you know, I don't think coming up with a design that doesn't really mean anything at this point, just to have one, is really going to make much of an impact.
It's not a design, it's just a possible alternative. But the only permit that will be required will be from the building department. DPW won't issue a permit. I think the planning board's already ready to issue permits. So
Is that true, Jim? Is the planning board ready to go forward with not knowing what type of wall is going to be built?
As of right now, the board hasn't executed any decision, but yes, right now it's the limit of work with the understanding that, you know, future review of that wall is going to take place. You know, this is an ongoing process, a large subdivision. There's going to be a lot of communication back and forth as they proceed.
Okay, so I guess, Mike, you're okay with that?
I guess I'm looking from at Jim literally on the screen as I say this. So at some point in time, it sounds like after the permit is issued, both building, planning board, Concom, the bridge abutments and walls and so forth are going to be designed and submitted to the town again for review and discussion with DPW and others. I think it's reasonable to ask in our permitting that alternatives be provided to the town, not to the Concom per se, but to the town as part of the condition to be reviewed as early in the process as possible. It kind of defeats the purpose of requiring that people look at alternatives and make sure you consider it and get the best choice here for the town to protect the town's interests after the project is approved. Because do we have leverage? Can you stop the project? Would the town stop the project? Would they want to? Probably not. But if what I'm hearing is that the town would not approve, give final planning board / building department approval of the roadway prior to getting actual concrete plans, literally maybe, in hand, that they review and say this would work, then fine. I mean, if that I'd be comfortable with that. I just kind of hate to see the barn door be closed and, you know, then get the plans afterwards and say this isn't really what we want, and then have a mess. Maybe the developer would feel the same way. They want to get this locked in, know that they've got a plan that's going to be approved right down to the roadway before they get, you know, going on it.
I guess one of the things I don't understand, Mr. Chairman, is not being an engineer, not being that kind of an engineer, why there can't be a design for the crossing, for the walls prior to construction. Is it because of soil borings? Is it because they can't get in there and get soil borings? You know, it seems funny, like you decided to build a house, but you don't know what kind of foundation you're going to use. You know, you're going to have some kind of foundation, but you know, you go to the building department and say, well, we're going to build a house, but we don't know what kind of foundation we're going to put it on, and expect to get that signed off on. Just as a broader thing on some of these issues, you know, why maybe Mark or Mike can speak to that. I would like to understand that process a little bit better. I'm sure there is one. I just don't get it.
Well, what I can tell you is that, first of all, this is very common practice. I've been doing this for 30 years, and I've never had a subdivision that we needed to do a full structural design as part of the approval process. So again, that's just how it's done. And I think the biggest reason for that is likely that you need to get approvals in hand before you go through the extensive cost, getting the boring rigs out there, and doing a full design. And again, I think everybody not in this room, in this Zoom, if you will, should take comfort in the fact that you're permitting a limit of work, and it's our charge to have a structural engineer design this within that limit of work. It has to be reviewed by the building department from a structural standpoint. I already heard Jim say that the town won't accept the Versalock, a CMU, concrete modular unit type of wall. So it may be that it's a foregone conclusion that it needs to be reinforced concrete. But again, it's just, in my experience, this is how it's always done. I'm not sure if that's, you know, good enough an explanation for you, Neil, but that's just typically how it's done in the industry.
I mean, the other part of this is stepping back a little bit. There's a potential liability. So if you design a wall improperly and something happens, those folks that are involved in that design are liable. And so typically a geotechnical and structural engineer would require more information. And I see this happening all the time on large projects where they haven't even done the geotech for the building. So we have a footprint of a building, for example, and they have to go back in later on and figure out how they're really going to put in the foundation and structurally take care of the building. that's going to be part of the building permit. You know, if you wanted to have the commission get a copy of the final plans to take a look at, to one, make sure it's in the footprint you approved. And it doesn't have any other impacts. There's not a huge weep hole that pours tons of water out into the wetland or something like that. I'm being facetious. I think those are the kind of things you could take a look at, that the commission could have a review of a final stamped plan as part of their special conditions, but you're not going to evaluate the structural. It's not your expertise or your area, but you're going to evaluate, does this meet the original approval, that we're not impacting adversely the wetland areas, we've minimized the impacts to the resource areas, those kind of things with this final design.
All right, that's great. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate that.
Okay, so what we will do is we will condition it on the limit of work. I have one more thing because we have another hearing coming up shortly. I think, and it has to do with infiltration basin 7. It does. Mike, do you have a ability to pull that one up?
I believe 724. I don't have them numbered here, so I just want to make sure I get this right. Mark, do you recall which one is 7? Is it
It's
this
the
one?
that's,
Yeah, it's the one coming along Road A, just east of that of the page, east of the wetland restoration that we're going to do in that vernal pool.
Oh, it's down here.
Correct.
Let me go to that sheet. That would be, it's not showing, this isn't the grading plan, but I believe it's right here.
No, a little bit up, right there. That's drainage basin 7.
Oh, that's right. Mr. Chairman, you may have mentioned this in the field.
I did. I mentioned that one in the field. I think we had a little bit of concern about the possibility of ledge being that you have one test pit, and I know you're doing some matching some grades there that are pretty steep, and I think it would probably be advisable to do a couple of more test pits in that area to make sure that you're going to be able to get the infiltration that you're proposing.
Yep.
The reason I say this is that we had exactly the situation at Lakeview Estates, and in fact, the applicant refused to do it, and we had to go back to DEP, and DEP said go do it, and they found out that there was substantially more ledge than they anticipated, and it resulted in a design of a basin. So I think.
And very well stated, Mr. Chairman, and to ease your mind, after Michael came back from the site walk, we did look at basin 7, and we are not taking any infiltration credit in that basin. It's going to be a retention basin only, and we adjusted some of the outlet control structure numbers to make sure that the pre and post met exactly where it had to.
Thank you. That's awesome. And of course, Frank will review that as part of the ongoing.
Yep. Yep. It'll be part of the package that you'll get your hands on very shortly.
That we can bring on vacation. Okay. I think for the moment, that's all I have. Is there anything else that anybody else would like to mention, or are we all good?
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to apologize for what you called the email snafu earlier. That's certainly what it was. You would have gotten the plans a day earlier, so I don't think that would have changed the way that this played out tonight, but just unfortunate that that happened. So I apologize for that.
Well, Mike, irrespective of the snafu, we're still making progress.
Right. Agreed.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, real quick, just for timeline purposes, just letting the commission know, the planning board's making good progress. I was happy to see the peer review come back and read through it. It looks like there was actually, as the gentleman mentioned, a lot of progress. It's great. So the board is looking for the updated plans, which I understand will be here shortly. And if it is truly progressing in the manner that it is, I think the planning board is considering a draft decision for, I want to say it's August 12th, whatever that Thursday is, the second Thursday of the month. Just timeline, not saying that, you guys got to do it right before then or after then, but just throwing that out there for consideration.
Okay. So, again, we will be awaiting Frank's review of the math and the engineering. We already continued the Common Street Road to August 11th, Mr. Vice Chairman, at 8. I would also like to entertain a motion to continue this one to the same night, August 11th, also at 8.
I second.
Okay. Now we're working off the screen. Mike,
Yeah, aye.
Neil,
Aye.
Noel,
Aye.
Brian.
Aye.
Okay, that's a unanimous vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
We're a couple of minutes late for the next hearing, but it's not too late. The Bellingham Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing in accordance with the Mass Wetlands Protection Act, General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Bellingham Wetlands Protection Bylaw on the abbreviated notice of resource area delineation for the confirmation of 4,200 linear feet of delineated bordering vegetated wetlands located at Assessor's Map 38, Lot 23, and 23-1, 150 and 152 Depot Street, Bellingham. Nicole Hayes, Goddard Consulting, Northborough, Mass., has submitted the filing on behalf of Ephraim Gerstenberg, Edison, New Jersey. The hearing will be held via the online Zoom option on Wednesday, July 7th at 8:15. Apologize for being a couple minutes late. Okay.
Good evening, everyone. I'm here in place of Nicole Hayes on behalf of Goddard Consulting. Tim McGuire, I'm a wetland scientist with Goddard Consulting here for Ephraim Gersberg for the property. Is it okay if I do a screen share for the presentation plans?
You should be up.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So tonight we're seeking confirmation of on-site resource area boundaries through the ANRAD application for the property addressed as 150 and 152 Depot Street in Bellingham. So that property is comprised of map 38 lots 23 and 23-1 as shown here outlined in red. There's 4 bordering vegetated wetland systems that were delineated on site. The site consists of an existing industrial building, an associated parking lot towards the center of the site here, and then the 4 bordering vegetated wetlands that we delineated as shown with the wetland line delineated in lime green, and for presentation purposes, the hatching shown down gradient of that as well.
Jim, can I just interrupt for just a second? Do you by any chance have an ortho photo of the site?
Absolutely.
That might help some of the commission. Thank you. That might help some of the commission members orient themselves.
Absolutely. So this is the ortho view of the site north facing, as you can see. And here's the industrial building that I described with the parking lot. So one of the wetlands is over here, and then we have a couple other on-site ones. Only 2 of the wetlands are on site, and the 4th is off-site as well over here. So the presentation plan that I just had up is slightly off north facing than what is shown here. So here's the north arrow. So slightly tilted as to what was shown there, again, with the building being centrally located and the 4 wetland systems as shown in green. We have been assigned a DEP file number for this, 105924, and DEP has only issued 1 comment in regards to an area northeast of the 400 and 500 series wetlands. And I have the, bear with me 1 second, the site plans. They were asking for the low point, which is over here. and if that was confirmed or not to be wetlands. And Nicole, who delineated this site, she will be the primary contact for this project moving forward. She had a conflict tonight, but she did confirm in the site that there were no wetlands in this area. And she would be happy to address that and go over with that in further detail with the commission on any site walks that would occur in the future. So essentially, this is the project. Again, we're seeking confirmation of the on-site wetland resource areas. And if there's any other additional questions from the commission at this point, I'd be happy to entertain them. I understand that we're still awaiting to set up a site walk for this. So if the commission would like to do so tonight, I would be happy to arrange that. Thank you very much.
I would really like to do it. I would really like to set it up tonight. And based on the vacation schedule, what is the commission's availability for Saturday? Anybody?
This upcoming Saturday?
Yeah.
Yes.
Sure, I can round.
So I don't, Nicole from my office, as I said, will be in attendance for this. And I don't think she has availability this weekend or until later next week. But I can confirm that with her if this Saturday is the preferred date.
Is there someone else from your office that can meet us out there and walk us out? The flags, I am sure, are still up.
Yeah, there's flags. This flags will still be in the field. We can have someone else from the office meet you out there if she's unavailable.
Okay, yeah, obviously we prefer to meet the delineator in the field, but we have seen this site before, and based on the upcoming schedule and our vacation schedule, if we don't get this done Saturday, we'll be in a situation where you'll be looking at over a month before we can get back out there.
Okay, absolutely. I can relay that to her and just confirm her availability.
The well's available. Anyone else available? All right.
I can probably be available unless Elsa raises havoc with the electrical system.
Well, so just a point of information, the last time we verified the wetland delineation on this site, it was during a hurricane. It was raining. It was raining about an inch an hour, and we were out in the field for about 4 hours. So
I remember that.
We're keeping.
That was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago. But I think that even if it, what I'm understanding is that the storm will have passed by. We'll have some leftover showers, but that's never stopped us before. Well, this is good. This is good news. So
what time Saturday would you like to have the site walk?
6 a.m.
No.
Don't listen to him. He's a troublemaker.
How about 8:30 a.m.?
Sun's up.
8:30 should be fine.
8:30 a.m. And, maybe what we can do, there's a
Dunkin' Donuts warehouse right next door. Yeah.
Yeah, but I that's not the most convenient way to access these resource areas. They're really off of Box Pond Road.
Most time I get coffee and donuts.
There's a public access and a turnout at the curve on Box Pond Road. If we could meet there, or do you have any ideas? Are you not familiar with the site?
I personally have not been to the site.
Okay.
I'm not sure how Nicole got out there, but I did just shoot her a text, and she did confirm that 8:30 does work for her. So I'm sure that you could correspond with her via email and just confirm exactly if it's best to access it from the front there, or if there's another path.
So we'll come up with a meeting spot, and when our administrator sends out emails to remind everyone to be there, even though it's only 2 days away, she'll let us know where to meet.
Okay, great.
Awesome. So that being the case, I will entertain motion to conduct a site walk this Saturday, the 10th, at 8:30 and to continue the hearing to evening of,
Can we discuss that?
oh, wait a minute. We need to, we're having changes to our schedule already. Belay that motion.
Will we be ready for the 28th?
Could be.
Okay, okay.
So you're gonna hold off on setting an exact continuance date until
Well,
after
we
the
have to
site.
do it. We're legally bound to do that right now. What we're trying to decide is if there are changes to the flagging, do you think you would have the opportunity to pick those up by survey as soon as the 28th?
I would have to confirm that with the surveyors, and also it will depend on the severity of the changes made in the field as well.
Well, considering the fact that most of these resource areas are toe slope, it probably, we're anticipating it's going to be pretty accurate. Let's schedule it, and if it doesn't work,
sure.
well, here's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
We'll schedule it for the 28th, and if for some reason there are changes and you're unable to pick them up and get them on a plan by the 28th, we'll just have to continue it at that point.
Absolutely, and we would certainly advise well in advance of that if that does turn out to be the case.
So,
Any delays in plan revisions.
Well, we have this one.
So that's July 28th that it will be
yes.
continued to? Okay, great.
Do it at 8. All right, so let me go back, and I will entertain a motion to conduct a site evaluation on Saturday, July 10th at 8:30, and to continue this hearing to the evening of July 28th at 8.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Okay, Mike. Neil,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Noel,
Bye.
Marianne.
Aye.
Okay, by unanimous vote. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much for your time, and Nicole will be out there at 8:30. Have a good night.
I'll get in touch with her tomorrow.
Okay, great. Take care.
Good night.
Okay,
Just minutes.
we have some permits or vouchers.
No, just minutes.
Okay, so we just have minutes. And since Mike has got nothing to do, we're gonna ask Mike to look for, yeah. Matt, take care.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you,
Frank,
Frank.
Thank you. Good to
Have a
see you.
good vacation, folks.
Yeah,
See you.
happy vacation.
thanks.
Bye now.
Okay, minutes. May 12th and June 9th.
I've got one or two observations.
Okay,
Hold on, you have to bear with me a second, only because last time I was able just to highlight the sections that I had to make notes this time, because for some reason this Dropbox minutes aren't the same as just getting them as an email. Okay, so on the 12th, the one was a real minor one. I just happened to catch in the first.
Just May 12th.
Yeah, sorry, May 12th one. Yeah, I'm just scrolling down through real quick. Parking reservation check, building check-in spread. Hang on. Second paragraph last. 35 Pelletier Drive. Okay, 35 Pelletier. Oh, I was a little confused in the second paragraph, second full paragraph. Near the end of it says the existing system was shown on the plan and the existing tank will be removed and replaced. Then we say, that's fine. There will be a new tank and pump chamber. Okay. The system is outside the 100-foot buffer zone. The septic tank and pump chamber are in the buffer zone.
that's correct.
So isn't the septic tank and pump chamber part of the septic system? Therefore, it would be outside the buffer zone by the previous sentence, or?
No, the leaching field is outside the buffer zone.
Okay, I wasn't sure if I was clear on that and whether others would be. Maybe we just want to say instead of the systems outside, maybe the leaching field or something, because it sounds like you're saying it is outside, and then another part of it, which most people probably consider is in. Just an observation. If everybody feels it's perfectly clear, that's fine. I'm not really embedded in that one. Going back up a little bit in the Mechanic Street, Red Mill.
Still the same minutes?
Yes, I'm sorry. I don't have anything for the second minutes, just the May one that I spotted anything at all. And I'm looking for, hang on, there's a line about TOFs. Oh, okay. So in the North Main Street, Mill Street, page 2, about halfway down in the second big paragraph, the applicant noted the first basin is on Common Street, was right up against the wetlands, and there was agreement by the applicant to move this basin in 25 feet to the, I think we want to say toe of the slope. It says toe slope, TOW slope. I think what we intended was the toe of the slope, correct?
Yes.
Okay, that minor one, but, and then I just question, is forebay, I'm just one of those words that I can't, is forebay F-O-R-E-B-A-Y or F-O-U-R-B-A?
No, E.
F-O-R-E.
Okay, then minor, page 4. Second paragraph, consultant DePietro comment when looking at infiltration basin number 2, the forebay and portion of the interior. So you might just otherwise, I think as usual, Amy did a great job. Thank you, Amy.
Okay.
I'll relay that to her tomorrow.
Okay. I thought she might still be lingering, but okay. That was it for me. I'm good otherwise.
Okay. So before we go,
Are we accepting these?
I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes of May 12th and June 9th.
So moved.
No, second.
Okay, and because there are so few people left, I think I can determine whether or not it's an accurate vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay,
Thank you.
that's a unanimous vote. So I don't know if Tyler's still there.
Tyler, I hope so.
I see he's there, but I don't see his, oh, he's coming up.
There
There
he
he
is.
Tyler, why don't you unmute yourself? There you go. You can hear us, right?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I don't know what you expect or what expected from tonight's meeting, but we just spent an hour and a half doing project review. This was a very easy meeting for us. Sometimes these meetings will go to 11 o'clock. Do you have any questions to ask?
What do you guys usually talk about for meetings?
What do we usually talk about? All right, what we do is a person will submit an application to us, and then we look at the application and we ask questions to make sure that the information they provide with the application will allow us to issue a permit that will protect the resource areas. So that's primarily what we talk about. Like I said earlier, sometimes it can be about the law or about engineering or about science, but all those things come together in the permits that we write.
We certainly hope you enjoyed.
I hope we didn't bore you.
I'd say it's a lot of information. I'm glad you sat in on it.
Thank you.
What grade are you in?
8th.
8th grade.
Excellent.
Okay. Do you like science?
Yes, I love science.
So I think next year you may have an opportunity to take earth science.
I don't choose my classes next year. That's what 9th grade is for.
Okay. All right. Oh, so you're going into 8th grade.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Well, just remember us when you take your earth science courses, because that's what we do here.
And
Okay.
with your badge, we're glad that we were able to assist you by participating in our meeting tonight.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity to see the town, parts of the town you would never see otherwise. You're going like back behind buildings that you would just see maybe on the road and drive by and you don't even know what's behind there. You find lots of car tires around town in spots you don't know how they got them there. There's no way a car got there, but there's tires. That's how we know it's a wetlands in Bellingham.
He's making a joke.
Yes, they're facultative wetland species.
But you also get to see all kinds of cool things. You get
Yeah.
to see pools where amphibians breed
Yeah.
and tadpoles grow in the middle of the woods in places where people don't even know there's water. You get to see salamanders that are, 8 inches long. All kinds of odd plants and snakes and bugs. It's an opportunity to get out in the woods and off the beaten path. So, okay.
Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Welcome.
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
You all set?
entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved. Oh, sorry, second.
All in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Thank you so much.
Okay, good night, everyone.
We'll see you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Good night,
now.
Are
everybody.
we signing anything on Saturday, Ann?
No.
Okay,
You don't have to bring a pen.
thank goodness. Just a raincoat.
Yeah, raincoat for sure. And some bug spray.
Oh, yeah. All righty.
Okay.
Thanks, Noel.
Thanks, Noel.
Yes.
Thanks, Noel.
Absolutely. Have a good night.
Take care.
Bye.